Hello there, epic Shadowverse gamers. As you all might be aware of, we recently received our first new set post-launch in Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. In my very true late-ass fashion, I am actually here to talk to you about said set. More so in this video about the new Havencraft cards, as you can see by the video title. Partially because of a script I had written for making a Haven overview before this set, the exact script you see on screen right now, that I unfortunately kind of never got to do just because of my internet kind of went out for like a week or so because Virginia storms, they kind of suck, and Virginia's just been storming every day and knocking my power out, and I lost internet for a while, and it was a time. I just didn't have the ability to finish it, so that's one of the reasons. Partially because Haven is still the deck I gravitate towards currently, despite it not being as strong as Ruin Portal or even like aggro Abyss right now. I was about to say Blood or mid-range Sword. It's not as strong as them, but I still like Haven. It is the deck I played in vanilla. It is the deck, I don't know if I'm going to keep playing it full time or if I'm going to transition because I kind of want to compete and a whole bunch of things. I digress. Finally, I think the final reason is just because, you know, Haven got a new deck type with this patch. Well, it's kind of new in quotations because this is just a return of a deck that actually existed in vanilla Shadowverse. Yeah, that's right, ladies and germs. We have the grand return of Ward Haven. The name says it all. It's Haven with the emphasis on wards, like thinking and put that team two together, but just in case, that's what it does. So Haven did receive support for Amulet and Storm as well, but honestly, most of the cards in this set are just straight up meant for Ward Haven, at least from the Havencraft side of things. Both the Havencraft legendaries that dropped are very much so basically dedicated to Ward Haven. They won't really splash well outside of Ward Haven. I guess Aether might just because of what her effect is, depending on what you're trying to rip. But she mainly would see use in Ward Haven currently, in my opinion. Asking me again in a few sets when we see what we get on that. Either way. But in addition to that, there's actually a few neutral cards that are very good for Ward Haven, or just good cards in general. 3 in specific I can think of offhand. We'll talk about them at the end. One of them is that little known fella known as Grim there. He's kind of my goat. But we'll talk about that guy later. He's real cool. And then after we go through all the cards from this set, both the Haven and the Legendary, both the Haven and the neutral stuff, we will kind of talk about how I feel about the decks themselves, that being the 3 decks that kind of exist for Haven right now, between Amulet Haven, Storm Haven, and Ward Haven. And we'll discuss the kind of decks that they are, that what they can accomplish, how they kind of shifted the meta a little bit more. So Ward Haven kind of shifted the meta. But again, it's not like a tier 1 strong deck currently, in my opinion. But the existence of Ward Haven does kind of shift some parts of the meta. But that's a later in this video discussion, so we'll get there. With all that being said, let's just start rolling through these cards, man. We have quite a few to get through here. So our first new card we have to look at is Divine Guard. This is a silver 1-drop spell with the following effect. Select an allied follower on the field with ward and give it +0/+1. Deal X damage to a random enemy follower. X is the selected follower's defense. Now this card is good removal in Ward Haven, but only if used early game or when the opponent does not have many followers. If the opponent has a lot of followers, this card kind of becomes more of a Hail Mary YOLO Swoos Lolamal kind of play. So that's kind of the dilemma with it. It is very cheap, though. It is, as I said, it is a 1-drop, 1 mana, 1 play point. And it's good. It works very well early game, can help maintain the board state, buff your wards up, make them potentially harder to deal with. That's a strong potentially because removal in this game is very strong currently because it's kind of just free. But that's a whole other topic. Now, we'll look at our second card. Next we have Damus, I don't know. Oracle of Malice. This is a bronze 2-drop that has Fanfare, select an enemy follower on the field and give it, at the end of your turn, destroy this card. So just to let it be known, with the way that wording is, it's actually the end of your opponent's turn. I believe that is why it is put in quotes. So if you play Damis, you will pick an enemy follower, and then at the end of their following turn, said follower will be destroyed. It is slow. He does not have ward, unfortunately, so he doesn't really fit into the ward haven thing. He might have a use somewhere. I personally haven't gotten too much use out of Damis just because of the speed of the effect, because at that point I'm running getting whacked in the face by something when I could just run something else, some other form of removal. I guess at 2 mana it's good in that context, but it's slow, and slow isn't really the name of the game in current Shadowverse Worlds Beyond, save for like 1 or 2 decks, that being things like Rune, who is just obnoxiously good, or mid-range Sword, which they're not even that slow, but they're just very good at control and grind game. Different topics, though I digress. Following it up, we have yet another 2-drop. This time, it is a gold card known as Maddening Benison. This is a spell with the following effect. Restore 10 defense to your leader and gain crest Maddening Benison. This crest is a countdown 2 with the last words, deal 10 damage to your leader. To me, this card is kind of the epitome of a Hail Mary ass play, to be honest. I don't personally use it currently though, as you might be able to tell by the fact that it's literally grayed out. I did not even craft one. But I might dabble in it soon for specific versions of the Haven deck. I can see this card getting more specifically used in something like a Stormhaven, since Stormhaven is actually able to push and end games. Because one of the Haven dilemmas that we're going to talk about later on is how Wardhaven, an example, is not that great at finishing. Stormhaven doesn't have that issue because it's built around Storm. So I could see Maddening Benison working in there potentially if you just need to survive a turn, maybe to let your Lapis come back or something like that, so you can then just slam the enemy for game. But outside of situations like that, this card just feels very, 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 very risky to use unless you're just that desperate to survive, like, I don't know, a 9-drop Super Evolved Albert play, or a Kuon shove, or just any of the crazy storming cards we have right now. But I don't know, on paper, Stormhaven's the only one I can personally see. If y'all have any better ideas, feel free to post them down below. Let me know, please. So this card you see on screen, this is Luminous Sensor. This is a bronze 2-drop amulet with Engage 1. Destroy this card, restore 4 defense to your leader. I have not personally used this card yet, but I do not think I will personally use it. The defense restore sounds cool, but in my opinion, there are just better options for that, even if at a different mana cost or use. Where it's like, yes, it is 4 defense, that is pretty high in the grand scheme of things. That's why things like Sage-like Teachings in Rune work the way they do and all that, because it's 4. 4 is a good number. But this is Haven. You can use things like Dark Haven Grace to buff allies while you're consistently gaining health back. You can use Soul Cure Sister just to be annoying with ward and heal. You can use Salefa, especially Salefa, in any Haven deck, because Salefa is just such a good card. We're going to sidetrack just to say, if you don't have 3 Salefa in your Haven decks, any of them Amulet, Storm, or Ward, please put 3 Salefa in the deck. She is so good at helping stabilize on turn 5 that it is ridiculous. She has so much value, kinda. I say it that way because that is comparatively to other things like a Kuon or an Orcus or an Anangrea. And those cards have absurd value, but she is genuinely a really good card to have just for stabilization. Run 3 of her. But back to what we're talking about, aka Luminous Sensor. The point being, I don't personally see the use for this currently. Maybe if later down the line we get a Tenko Shrine equivalent so we can get Heal Haven back, maybe something like that, so you can have this, you can play it turn 2, let it sit there until you get the things to proc like Heal Haven stuff, assuming that deck type does come back. But other than that, I don't really see a use for it. Just run the other types of heals that run better, in my opinion, in kind of your decks. Like run a Dark Haven Grace if you're running an Amulets. If you're running Storm, I don't know, run a Dark Haven so I can buff your Stormers. You get the point either way. So now we're moving on to 3-drops. First up to bat is the Cleric of Crushing. This is a bronze 2/4 with Ward and Evolve. Select the super evolved enemy follower on the field and destroy it. This card is kind of meh in my opinion. I used it at one point for the ward and the effect, but realized that I could instead run other things if removal was really that big of an issue. I could run Fildow. It doesn't have ward, but I could run Fildow and just evolve. It's a 2-drop and evolve and hit anything, not just a super evolved follower. I could run Ronavero. He's a 4-drop, has ambush, but I can evolve him and hit any follower. I can run more Immaculate Adjudicator. We'll talk about that card later. He is new. Point being, there are just a bunch of forms of removal that aren't as specific as the Cleric of Crushing, that I think putting her in the deck is just kind of currently eating up space that could be better utilized elsewhere. Plus she takes an evolve to do it, whereas that evolve could be saved for Salefa or Wilbert, another card we'll talk about later. But that's just my thought on her. If you're using her, that's fine. If you're getting success with her, that's awesome. I just personally, I tried her, genuinely had her at 3 at one point. I just didn't really get the ability to use her effect. So at that point I was using it for the ward, and at that point I can find better options potentially. So the next card can definitely have some good use if you are running Amulet Haven specifically. We have a silver 3-drop 2/4 by the name of Colette, Barrage Exorcist. This card has Fanfare. Do this one time. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy follower. If there are at least 2 allied amulets on the field, do it 2 times instead. As you can see, if you are running Amulet Haven, this is the kind of card you would want, because she herself is a 2/4. She actively just hurts things. She's literally everything you want in a card essentially for Amulet Haven at her mana cost. It's great, you can clear board, you can set up, you get the point. But honestly, right from here, we just jumped straight to 5-drops. We did not get any new 4-drops in this set. For better or worse, it is what it is. So the first one we have, silver 4/4 5-drop by the name of the aforementioned Immaculate Adjudicator. He contains the following effect. Fanfare, select an enemy follower on the field and banish it. Now, his cost is kind of high, obviously, as that is the same mana cost as a Salefa, and Salefa's awesome. I just gushed about her. But hear me out. Access to a general banish is a very good thing. It does not require an evolve like an Iron Fist Priest. It doesn't have the requirements of Iron Fist Priest, who has the requirement of defense 3 or less. If you don't have Odin, this is good. He's also 2 less than Odin, not as valuable as Odin. We'll talk about Odin later. He will be mentioned, don't worry. But in general, for those who don't know, who might be new to Shadowverse, just like in a game like Magic the Gathering, Banish and Destruction are 2 different ideas in the game mechanically. So in Magic we would call them death triggers, which are triggers that go off when a creature dies. If you were to banish them, or in the case of Magic terminology, exile them, you are not destroying them. It completely circumvents the death trigger. This is true for Shadowverse. If you see something with last words and you banish it, the last words do not go off. This is something that the only card that I can think of that could do it before this in the entire game was Iron Fist Priest when his requirement was fulfilled. Now we have 2 cards that do it. Well, 2 more cards I should say. We have Immaculate Adjudicator, the card we're talking about now, and unfortunately a neutral follower named Odin. It sucks. The reason it sucks we'll talk about later. It's not great. But I digress. That's the point. Banish is great around last words. Immaculate Adjudicator is just good removal. I'm not going to say run 3 of him. because of what his mana cost is, when you could be running other things at that mana cost like a Salefa, which I recommend 3 of her, or other forms of type removal that we'll get to, but I digress. Different talk. So next we have what I'd argue the biggest winner for Amulet in Stormhaven, which isn't saying a lot because this set doesn't have a lot of support for either of those. But this is the gold 5 drop 3/4 on Agnes, I don't know how it's meant to be pronounced, the Swift Blade. She possesses the following effect: Storm and Strike. If there are at least 2 allied amulets on the field, destroy a random enemy follower other than the opposing one. If that effect confuses you, it just means that when she swings, she destroys a random enemy follower except the one she is swinging on. And because this is a raw strike ability, this also activates when you swing on the enemy leader. So if you summon her, swing on face because she has Storm, and you have your 2 amulets on the field, you will destroy a random enemy follower if they have one. What's really good about this, depending on the situation, is because it's random enemy follower, the word random, is it gets around aura. So you can find ways to maybe set this up to kill bigger annoying things that might have aura. So now we'll move on to 6 drops with what is literally the biggest and most important card if you plan on running Wardhaven. This here is Wilbert, Desolate Paladin. This is one of the 2 legendaries Haven received this set. He is a 6 drop 4/6 with the following fantastic effect: Ward and Last Words summon 2 copies of Holy Cavalier, and in addition to that he has Evolve, Gain Crest, Wilbert, Desolate Paladin. The crest is the following: whenever an allied follower with the board enters the field, give it +1/+2. I'm sure you can see how and why this is the cornerstone of Wardhaven. Like, his mana cost means no matter what the turn order is of this, you can be played your first evolve turn. If you're going first, you get to play him when your evolve comes up. If you're going second, you can jam him early with coin. So he's good. The only real problem he runs into is he is actually the first card in the game with a hidden effect. That's right, chat. He has a hidden fanfare effect. Let me put you on game real quick. His hidden fanfare effect that Side Games doesn't want to tell you about is whenever you play Wilbert Desolate Paladin, you put an Odin into your opponent's hand. That's the trade-off. It's a shitty trade-off, but just know that is a thing. He has that hidden fanfare. You've been warned. Other than that hidden fanfare, awesome card, cornerstone of Wardhaven. Approved. And now we go straight to our second legendary, so we are now in 7 drops. This is the 2/4 7 drop Aether Empyrean Guardian. Her effect is Ward and Fanfare. Summon 3 random differently named followers that cost 3 or less from your deck, and then she has Super Evolve. Give all other allied followers on the field +0, +2, and aura. So. I am sure if you can put the 2 and 2 together, you can see where this is going. But you might not be able to see how dummy this is and how it can go with Wilbert Crest or the Grimnir Crest we will talk about later. You can play Wilbert the turn before this, or 2 turns, depending on coin. And then evolve him, get his crest that gives you the boost to your ward, and then play this card, summon the 3 things from the deck, super evolve her. Upon the cards hitting the field, they'll get the Wilbert crest if they have ward. If you're running Wardhaven, you're going to pull some wards out of your deck. And then you super evolve her, you will give them even more stats and aura. It makes them harder to deal with. The real dilemma is it's just aura, and this game removal is so strong that you just kind of play Aether and summon the board and pray that it sticks because nothing there has Storm. So again, the deck has problem finishing. It's because of reasons like this. You are trying to brick the board and pray to God. Your opponent does not have ways to remove your board. There's a high chance they're gonna remove your board. But this is what Aether does. She can be very strong. She has won me many games already just because of bricking the board. But if your opponent has answers, it sucks and feels like a wasted play almost. That's the trade-off of playing Haven. So yeah, that's actually it for the Havencraft cards. Again, there are 10 cards they got in this set in total. I'm not sure if every archetype got 10. I didn't count entirely, but I know Haven got 10. And as you can see, most of them are dedicated to Ward Haven. In fact, I think all but 2 of them are dedicated. No. Yeah, 2 of them are dedicated to Ward Haven. Well, no, Maddening Menace isn't. It's all but 3. And I'm using dedicated loosely. You can obviously use these cards in other decks for Haven, but they're gonna get the most use in Ward Haven because the nature of the ward, obviously. With that being said, we're not done here. We're gonna talk about the 3 neutral cards I mentioned there. So first up, we have Silver 2-drop 2/2 Sharetta Angelic Maid. This is a neutral follower, so any deck can use her. But her effect is Fanfare. If you unlock Super Evolution, give this follower +0/+3, and she inherently has Ward. You can obviously see how this works, why I recommend it for Ward Haven. If you're trying to run Ward Haven, it will just go very well. She's a 2/2 2-drop that's already good for early game poke. If you play her late game, she just becomes a deeper ward. If you have Wilbert Crest, she becomes an even deeper ward. You can see where this goes, man. I'm sure y'all are intelligent enough to understand why Sharetta is good. So that's one of the 3 neutral. The second we're going to talk about is my GOAT, Grimnir. The reason he's my GOAT is because it's who I mained in Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising. Hi, for those who don't know, I was a long-time competitor in fighting games, including, but not limited to, Grand Blue. I digress. But I also love him in Grand Blue proper. I played a gacha game, and yes, I know he's from Rage of Bahamut. I get it, I know. I didn't personally get to play Rage of Bahamut for DOS. It is what it is. Either way, this is a neutral legendary 3-drop 2/3 with the following effect: Ward, Aho, and Fanfare. Gain his crest, which, as you can see, is that if you have a Super Evolved follower on your field, nuke the board for 2 at the end of it. Now, obviously, you can see why that's good. It's more removal. You can do it with himself. You can summon him and Super Evolve him if for some reason you have no other Super Evolved target, and you can swing with him because of the Super Evolve, and then you'll nuke the board at the end of the turn for 2. Good removal. He fits very well in the Ward Haven. He himself has Ward. All the benefits of Wilbert and Aether can apply to him. And we'll get to the final card that I really don't want to talk about because I really wish this card didn't exist, but he does. So, pardon me, I'm getting through my traumas. The final card we have to talk about is Odin. This card, man. This is a 7-drop 4/2 with Storm. You're already annoying because he has Storm, but he has the following effect: Fanfare. Select a card on the field and banish it. I think you can see exactly why this is strong, and why I hate it so much, and what I meant about Wilbert's hidden Fanfare effect. Odin is a Storm card. He comes out at 4. You can Super Evolve him in the 7. If you have other ways to buff him in your deck, whether that's Haven or anyone else, because he is neutral, you can get even stronger. And he has Fanfare banish a card. He is a Stormer with his own removal. He is a Stormer with his own removal that specifically banishes. If he comes out and banishes your Wilbert, you are not getting your Holy Cavaliers, and you might get fucked. It has happened to me a lot, hence the hidden Fanfare effect. Odin is very annoying. I run him in my deck, he's that good. In my Ward Haven deck, he exists for a combination of removal and helping me finish games because Wardhaven inherently can't really do that. Odin is stupid. You should run Odin if you ever think you're gonna run into trouble with targeted removal type issues. So run Odin. Comes out of nowhere, he can remove a ward and just slam someone in the face. He can remove a threat without activating last words. He is very annoying. It sucks. I hate him. I really wish he wasn't here, but he is. But yeah, that's it for the cards. Obviously, there's other neutral cards that happen. I don't think they're worth mentioning. Not saying they're all weak, because they're not, but I just don't think they're worth mentioning contextually to Haven currently. So yeah, that's the list though. That being said, we'll do a quick little segment, because this is already going to be like a 30-minute video. We'll do a quick little segment about how I feel about the decks currently, and just go from there, man. So if you've made it this far, that's awesome. You don't have to stick it out for the rest. Hell, you don't have to stick out for any of it. But now we're just gonna kind of talk about the decks, and I don't even have a script for this, so we're just gonna off the dome, man, off the cusp. What do I feel about Haven currently? It fucking sucks. No, I'm kidding. It's not that bad. Honestly, Haven, it's not terrible, but it's not good, or that's not the term. It's not great. It's just fine. It's not gonna be mid-range sword as far as I can tell. It's not gonna be any form of runecraft, because runecraft is just that stupid right now. It's not gonna be aggro abyss. You get the point. Like, Wardhaven is good, extremely good when it works, because it can brick up a board and absolutely decimate people. But the problem is you need the board to stick around, as Wardhaven doesn't deal in Storm itself, so it has trouble finishing. So you do things like Wilbert, like a curve, what you'd want to see in Wardhaven, I guess, would be like turn 5, Salefa, stabilize, board clear, turn 6, Wilbert, he might get destroyed, get your Cavaliers, do whatever you want with them, turn 7, Aether. And that's like kind of the ideal play, the ideal curve for Haven. Wardhaven specifically. But when you do that, you have to do things like pray they don't have an Odin from the hidden fanfare effect of Wilbert. You have to pray that they don't have an answer to the board that Aether creates. Everything you do is you're trying to make your board stick in a game that has a ton of free removal currently, and that's just kind of the dilemma of it all. Again, it's not bad. It's just not what like Runecraft does, where they just will bring out a Stormer and absolutely decimate you late game. That's the difference. You don't really get that in Wardhaven. It is more of a late game deck, but it's not Cocytus declimbing you into like set your life to 1 and Super Evolve Crash or Silent Rider. It's not 10-drop Kuoning you. It's puppets aren't as strong as they used to be, but it's not Orcusing you. It's not mid-range sword, because mid-range sword has one of the gnarliest grind games currently, where once you hit mid-game into late game, it is very hard to deal with sword currently if the deck is built for mid-range. Yeah, Aggro Abyss kind of runs you over earlier on in Wardhaven. It's a time. I like the deck a lot. I've always liked Wardhaven, even back in vanilla. We'll see what the next few sets hold for it. I don't expect next set to have too much support for it, just because so much of this set was dedicated to that. I expect to get other support, and from what I recall, I think Omens are coming back next set. So we'll see what that means for Haven if we get the Omen of Repose back, Marwyn, and see if his effect change. I don't know, we'll figure it out, man. Amulet Haven. Amulet Haven's Amulet Haven. It's a deck that you're gonna hear this a lot over the course of this. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. You can have a very strong presence with Wardhaven, but you also need to sacrifice tempo to set up at times, and just there isn't removal for amulets save Odin currently. Odin can actually banish any card, so he can hit amulets. But that's a beauty of amulets, is it's only one card. You can play them and let them sit around and do stuff. But at the same time, when you're doing that, you're not summoning creatures for field presence. You're not really pushing people unless you're playing the amulets that have immediate effects that you can force. Unholy Vessel for board clearing. Avian Statue for willing to dump the extra 2 into it to summon a Regal Falcon to crash into them, that type of stuff. Colette and Anyez are great help for Amulet, especially Anyez. if for both Amulet and if you're running Storm or the hybrid between the two, which you probably kind of want to if you're running Anyas anyway. As for Stormhaven only got one new piece, and that is Anyas. And I want to say Stormhaven is, I almost want to say, the strongest of Haven, if only because it can finish games. And that's not even to say it's hyper strong. Again, none of the Haven decks are oppressive or anything like that. But Stormhaven at least finishes games. But now with things like Odin, you're kind of one of your biggest potential threats with Lapis can get removed, because Odin will just banish her and get around her last words effect. If you're running Stormhaven, you're probably running less on the defensive end of things, like less ward and stuff, which opens you up to more from the opponent. And while Stormhaven is a faster Haven, it's not as fast as like an Aggro Abyss or Swordcraft. And because you're running your Storm, you're not as control and grind game centric as the other Havens, which are already less control and grind game than like Rune and mid-range Sword. And so that's what I feel about the decks. What I meant earlier about the kind of meta shift from Wardhaven is Wardhaven's existence at least forces certain decks in a different light, where it creates this kind of RPS situation where like Roach, as in Forestcraft, can't really play into Wardhaven like that. But then something like Aggro Abyss early game dumpsters you. Wardhaven allows Ramp Dragon to actually do things and all that type of stuff. It forces this interesting RPS, but the real dilemma is that while that RPS exists, the best decks in the game currently just outright kind of beat Haven, because Rune can beat Haven, Aggro Abyss can beat Haven, Artifact Portal beats Haven, mid-range Sword beats Haven. So that's just where it's sitting right now. And again, this isn't me dumping on the archetype. I love this archetype to death. Haven's awesome. It's what I played in vanilla. But I do think it needs some help, or the other decks need to get brought down, or a combination of them. If that's gonna happen in either direction, I don't know, because I'm so sick and tired of seeing decks like Rune and Sword be good. That's just my experience from Shadowverse 1 coming out. But yeah, I don't know what the future holds for Haven or this game, obviously, but I don't know. I might transition into playing Dirt. We'll see, because Dirt got a lot of really obnoxious support, and Rune in general is obnoxious. But either way, if you've stuck around this long, feel free to let your thoughts in the comments below about how you're feeling about Haven currently, or just the game in general. Do we try to keep it without like attacking developers or me? Although I hope you wouldn't attack me, but you get what I mean, or anyone really. Like, be nice and courteous in your opinions and everything. I'm not saying you have to be like sterile or anything. You can use language and curse and be mad and vent. Just don't be attacking things or people directly. That's all I ask. If you like this video, just like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm trying to do more Shadowverse videos and more content in general for YouTube. Since I stream a lot, you can come hang out with me on my Twitch, wink wink. But I don't upload on my YouTube as much, and I'm trying to really fix that. That's all I really got, man. I know this is honestly a bit longer than I thought it would be, but I'm a yappy kind of guy, what can I say? Yeah, a yappy unk, as the kids might call me. So that's all I got, bros. I'll see y'all in the next video. Stay based, stay blessed, and have a rest of your day or night, man. Doodles.